What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the pod. We're back, another UFC episode, UFC 323 this weekend. Final pay-per-view of the year, final pay-per-view of the ESPN era. This is the final time, from what we think, that we'll have to pay for a pay-per-view, to watch a pay-per-view, which is great news. That's great news because, look, we're at the point in our world where we shouldn't have to pay for sports like this, right? Any other sport you can watch on television, and as long as you have YouTube TV or Direct TV or something, you can watch the sport. Now, obviously, we've seen sports go in the streaming service direction as of recently, and the UFC is going to follow suit while also having some cards on CBS. I think this is a great move for the UFC just simply because it's going to make it more accessible for people. I think that has been a big issue with mixed martial arts, with watching the UFC, and why it really hasn't been able to take off, and reach the levels of the sports like the NFL, the NBA, because it's just been harder to watch. Like, it's hard for people to pay $80 for a pay-per-view, and sure, you could split it with a group of people and it's not that bad, but not everyone has, a friend group or a group of people that like watching the fights. I'm down here at school, all my buddies are up in Sacramento, up north, and for them they can go to B-Dubs and split the pay-per-view. But for me, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to pay $80 for me to just watch it by myself. So this is great. This is a win-win. This is the final viable pay-per-view. Not exactly like a crazy strong card or anything, but it's a really fun card. And what I will say is this is probably the deepest card of the year. I mean, going down all the way to the early prelims, it's fights that personally I don't want to miss, right? I know I'm going to be working, so I might miss the first couple, but this is an amazing card. Before I jump into it, as always, thank you for being here. If you are here, I appreciate your support more than you know. I'm going to start doing this every episode. Rain or Monster, sponsor me. And then if you see my right eye, if it tears up or if it's red a little bit, I promise I didn't get Tom Aspinall eye poked. Just been dealing with it, so you'll see me wiping my eye from time to time. Nothing to be concerned about. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't do anything. It just tears up, gets a little red. With that being said, UFC 323. We're gonna jump into it. I'm gonna give you guys my predictions, and what I'm gonna do at the end of the episode, and we're introducing a new segment. I'm going to do this with NFL episodes and with UFC episodes. I'm going to give you my parlay for the week, for the UFC card, my parlay that I will be placing down. And if you are a bettor, I encourage you to do so as well. That being said, bet responsibly. Don't put crazy money on this. I am no expert or anything. I'm just a dude who loves sports, here talking about sports, practicing on camera. And for the NFL episodes, which we'll get an NFL preview in a couple days, I'm gonna give you guys my daily fantasy lineup for the week, which will be fun to do as well. With that being said, this card is on Saturday. I'm recording this on Tuesday, so if there's any fight cancellations, any movement of the odds, anything, all the information I'm using is what I'm going off of based on what is available to me at Tuesday, 1:36 p.m. Pacific time. So if anything changes in the meantime, I apologize. So, with that being said, main event, Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan. Merab's the champ, and he's going for his fourth defense in a calendar year. Would be absolutely absurd if he did this. He's a minus 485 favorite, so he's nearly a 5-1 favorite over Petr Yan, who's a plus 370 underdog. And I gotta say, man, a lot of times you see these ballooned odds on fights, and it's just like disrespectful, because when you get to the top of these divisions and there's fighters this high of caliber, anytime there's a championship fight and the odds are like this, it's crazy to me, right? With this fight, it's not. I think what Merab has done this year has been something we've hardly ever seen. I mean, he has dominated his opponents, and it's been 3 different opponents with 3 drastically different styles. I mean, he beat Umar, and granted that was a closer fight, but like by the end of it, it was Umar gasping for air and Merab just tossing him around like it was nothing. He submitted Sean O'Malley in June. Then he almost TKO'd Corey Sandhagen on the feet before getting the decision win against him. And now he's fighting Petr Yan, who I think if you were going to give the title shot to anyone next, I think it would be Petr Yan. He's coming off of a handful of good wins. He's beaten Song Yadong. He's beaten Davison Figueiredo. He beat Marcus McGee, which was kind of an odd fight, but you fight who you're given, and that was who he was given, and he won that fight. And these guys fought each other once before, and it was a main event, and Merab ended up going 11 for 49 on takedowns. Merab shot 49 takedowns in one 5-round fight, which is just absurd. Like, anyone who does that, if you didn't know about the fighter style, if you'd never watched him and you just saw shot 49 takedowns, you'd think, wow, this person is so bad on the feet. They're desperately shooting. But this is just what Merab does. He's created this style, and it just breaks people. And I think what we have seen with Merab in all of his previous fights, right, is every fight, the person he's fighting comes in, and the game plan actually looks pretty good, right? With Umar, it was wrestling him early. With Sean O'Malley, it was a lot of teeps, a lot of body work. With Corey Sandhagen, it was very footwork oriented. And all three of those guys had little moments in those fights. They did. But Merab just ends up breaking you. And it's kind of this thing where no matter what game plan you've come up with against Merab, it doesn't matter, because this dude in his gas tank and his relentlessness is just so unstoppable that it's like, it doesn't matter what game plan. Your game plan could be perfect down to a T, but he's just got this one trait that just, it doesn't matter what you throw at him, it's always going to take over. So really, we're kind of at the point where if you're going to beat Merab, it's gonna happen by chinning him, right? That's how it goes. And we've seen this before with champions who are so dominant, and the way it happens and the way that they lose and their reign of dominance ends is simply just from getting knocked out. I mean, this was kind of what happened with Kamaru Usman. Usman was untouchable. No one could touch this guy. And then he fights Leon Edwards. He's winning the fight handily. Boom, that one shot. And we also kind of see it go down from there. With Merab, it's just who's going to be the guy to knock him out cold before he retires and steps away from the sport. And I'll be honest, I just don't think Petr Yan is that guy. I think Petr Yan is an exceptional fighter. But what Petr Yan does in all of his fights is you're going to hear Joe Rogan talk about this on the broadcast. He's a processor. He processes information, right? So that first round or two with Petr Yan in a 5-round fight, or that first round in a 3-round fight, a lot of times you see him drop it on the scorecards just because he's kind of getting his reads on a fighter. You can't afford to do that against Merab. Because what Merab will do is he'll get in on a takedown and he'll start wearing you out. So even if Petr Yan goes 1 or 2 rounds where he's getting his reads, he's starting to find his timing, right? If Merab keeps dragging him to the ground, 1, you're not going to find your timing that way. And 2, even if you start to find your rhythm, find your timing a little bit, you're going to already be so exhausted from being dragged down to the mat multiple times that it's not going to matter. So this, for me, is stylistically, I hope I don't jinx it. I hope I'm not wrong, because Merab has had this aura around him that's he's just been untouchable at bantamweight recently. But to me, of the 4 matchups that Merab has had this year, of Umar, Sandhagen, O'Malley, and now Petr Yan, I think Petr Yan is the easiest matchup for him stylistically. I just think it is. And Petr Yan, didn't do a horrible job defending the takedowns in their first fight, but he still got taken down 11 times. He couldn't get off the fence. Merab was absolutely wearing him up, absolutely beat him up. And even though he was supposedly injured in that fight, we hear this from fighters in every fight, right? We heard it from Sean O'Malley, that fight that when he lost the belt to Merab, he was, I was hurt, my labrum, all this. He gets it fixed, comes back, and then Merab submitted him, right? So I think in this fight, I really, on this podcast, I've yet to have a definitive fight. Like every time I've broken down these title fights, most of the time I'm like, I lean this person, but I'm not overly confident in it, because championship level fights, you typically can't be overly confident. I really, unless Petr Yan lands just a nasty shot, I just don't see him winning this fight against Merab. And I think the conversation in this should be more about, is Merab going to be able to find a finish? Because the one person we saw him rematch, right, was Sean O'Malley. And he looked better against Sean O'Malley the second time and found a way to finish him. And he almost finished Corey Sandhagen too. And I think that we've seen a trend in recent years where when a guy gets a rematch, right, for the belt, or gets a rematch against a guy that he's already lost to, usually in a title fight, usually that second fight, it goes worse for the guy that lost the first fight, right? We saw this with DDP and Strickland. Close fight the first time. The second time, DDP's got the belt on him. He's got this confidence around him. Beat up Strickland. Leon Usman. Leon lands the head kick. Okay, people call it a fluky win. You got to do it the second time. And he pretty handily beat Usman that second time by decision. And we saw this with Merab and Sean, and I think we could see this with Peter Yan. Because the one thing that was not a factor in the Merab-Peter Yan fight the first time they fought was Merab wasn't a champion then. And as we know, typically when guys get the belt, they get better. And we have only seen Merab improve, right? We have only seen him improve. The fact that he was never a fight finisher and then he pulled out a finish against Sean O'Malley and he came this close to finishing Corey Sandhagen shows that he's evolving as a fighter. And I think that's a testament to Merab. And I think that's a testament to John Wood and Syndicate MMA and that gym, because John Wood is one of the best coaches in MMA. And I just think there is a sneaky opportunity for Merab to get a finish here. There is a sneaky opportunity for it to happen. So I really, really do like Merab in this fight. And sneakily, I don't think I'm going to bet it, but sneakily, if you want to get a little risky, sprinkle a little money on Merab by finish, because his only rematch that he's had against anyone, he ended up finding a finish against Sean O'Malley and won that fight even more handily than he did the first one. So give me Merab, maybe by finish, more than likely by decision. And Peter Yan, it's going to take a superhuman effort to beat this guy unless you just chin him and knock him out. And Peter Yan, as good of a striker as he is, he's not exactly a one-punch, put-you-out-cold striker. So I think Merab pretty handedly in this one. And you can't call it like easy matchmaking or anything, because this is the next person rightfully to fight Merab for the belt. It just is. And Merab is going for a 4th win in a calendar year. And if he gets it done, we need to have some conversations. Everyone knows at this point, if you don't think he's the greatest bantamweight of all time, you're fooling yourself. But then we start having some conversations. Where is he in the pound-for-pound rankings? Because right now, it's pretty kind of unanimously thought of that Islam, Elia are the top 2 in the pound-for-pound. But if Merab wins a 4th one in a calendar year, I mean, he deserves to be in the conversation with those guys. He deserves to have an argument for being the number 1 fighter in the world pound-for-pound. So Merab's just an animal, man, and I look forward to watching him fight again. Let's move on to the co-main. Another championship fight. The most disrespected champion in the entire UFC, on the entire roster, one of the most fun fighters on the entire roster, and for some reason the fans just refuse to get behind this guy, which is the craziest thing to me. The champ, Alessandro Pantoja, defending his flyweight belt against number 1 ranked Joshua Van. Pantoja's a minus 238 favorite, Van's a plus 195 underdog, and these odds make sense. Like I said, Pantoja is the most disrespected champ in this sport. He's an absolute marauder, and he has this game plan that he goes into every fight with, and it just works beautifully, right? Pantoja on the feet is a marauder. He throws freaking bombs at you. He unloads these body kicks. He throws massive overhands. He just throws caution to the wind on the feet. And what that does is when you have a guy marching you down, right? He never is on the back foot. He's always on the front foot. When you have a guy marching you down, throwing bombs, trying to seriously hurt you, and then you're sitting there trying to defend these strikes, you're trying to defend these massive body kicks, these massive overhands, then he gets in on a takedown and takes your back. Because that's what he's best at, is the grappling. His striking is really, really good. And what makes Pantoja so good is he knows his striking is good, and he uses it as a means to get to the grappling, which is even better than his striking. It honestly works every fight, because what are you going to do? If you're a fighter, you're getting walked down, you're getting body kicks thrown at you, overhands thrown at you, you're going to shell up, you're going to get defensive, right? You can't have your hands low because you're going to get clocked. So you get your hands up, you start being defensive, boom, the dude's in on your hips, and usually he takes your back, and that's what he's best at. He beat Kai Asakura by rear naked choke, he beat Kai Kara-France by rear naked choke. Brandon Royval had some good defense against him in their title fight, but Brandon Royval did not have an answer for him. So, yeah, Pantoja is that dude. Now, Joshua Van is a unique challenge for him, because Pantoja, we're at this point, similar to Merab, where he's just beaten so many people, right? Anytime a new person comes up, you got to present something new to them, right? Whereas Peter Yan, Merab's already seen Peter Yan before. Joshua Van, Pantoja really hasn't fought a guy like Joshua Van. And there really isn't many guys like Joshua Van in this division. I'd say the one that's kind of close to Joshua Van in this division is Manel Kape, who fights in 2 weeks and has a chance that if he beats Brandon Royval, he has a chance at being next for the belt. But Joshua Van is a unique challenge because he's really fast. He's got really fast hands. He's a volume striker, and he's a good athlete, right? And that's the one thing where it's like, if you're going to get all defensive and Pantoja is going to shoot on you, right, you better be a really, really good athlete to be able to evade it. Joshua Van is a really good athlete. Joshua Van has been on an absolute tear. He took that Brandon Royval fight on short notice. He beat him up. It was potentially the fight of the year. It was an unreal fight. And Joshua Van has a lot of hype on him. But what Joshua Van really hasn't fought is someone like Pantoja with the grappling skills, right? He's fought grapplers, but like Pantoja's like the elite of the elite grapplers in this division. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, Joshua Van presents a unique challenge that Pantoja really hasn't had to face since he got the belt, but Joshua Van's seen no one like Pantoja before. And Joshua Van, I've seen some interview clips of him this week talking about how he doesn't really have like a set game plan. He's going to go out there, have fun, do what he does best. And I actually don't hate that mentality against a guy like Pantoja, because if you get too carried away about defending the takedowns and doing these different things so that you don't get submitted or don't get your back taken, it kind of takes away from what you do best, which is throwing the hands and stuff. But I'm just afraid that Joshua Van, he might drop a round or two against Pantoja, and then he might really start letting his hands go, which is a good thing, and that's when Pantoja will take advantage and find a finish. So I do like Pantoja by sub in this one. I just think we've never seen Joshua Van on his back, and we've never seen anyone on Joshua Van's back, right? We've never seen him with his back to the mat, how he defends submissions, different positions in terms of the jiu-jitsu, and then what Pantoja does so well is he gets your back, he puts that body triangle on, and he just punch, goes for the choke. Okay, that's not there. Punch, choke, maybe switches sides. Pantoja's elite, probably the best back taker in the entire UFC, and I really, really enjoy watching Joshua Van. Joshua Van is one of the most fun fighters on the entire roster. His style is just awesome to watch, but it's one of those things, man, where it's like, okay, Joshua Van's really fun to watch, but this dude Pantoja is on another level. And I think that this card is going to be a really good opportunity for Merab and Pantoja to really show themselves as, Merab started to gain that respect, especially in his past couple fights, really since he submitted Sean O'Malley. Pantoja still hasn't yet, and I think if he comes out and he finishes Joshua Van, he gets his third finish as a champion defending the belt. I just think people will start to realize why Alexandre Pantoja is so special. So give me Pantoja, give me him by submission. I like the odds of that one in this fight. Next up, and we're going to stay in the flyweight division for this one, and this is potentially a number one contender match. This could potentially determine who's next for the belt. It depends on how Pantoja Van goes, depends on how Manel Cabra and Royval goes next week. Brandon Moreno is at -102. He's fighting Tattoo Taira -118. This is basically a pick-em between number 2 and number 5 in the flyweight division, and it's a really fun fight, right? I think that Taira has an easier case at the belt if he ends up winning this, especially by submission, than Moreno, just because, like, let's say Moreno wins and Pantoja wins in the co-main event, right? We've already seen Pantoja Moreno before, and as we know with the UFC, unless the division is just completely just like there's no one next for the belt, they don't love doing those like the rematches, like especially when guys have fought each other more than twice. So I think that it's going to be hard for Moreno to garner a title shot if Pantoja ends up winning. But if Joshua Van wins and Moreno wins, then he's going to have a very good case because that's a fresh matchup. I think this is a really fun fight. I really do. I think that Taira's grappling, which is absolutely elite. Like let's not get it twisted. Taira's grappling, he might be the best pure grappler in the division. It's either him or Pantoja, but he doesn't really have the striking that Pantoja does. Right? He's got solid striking, but it's nothing crazy. It's nothing special. And the one thing about Taira that is working against him is the strength of schedule. He really doesn't have like a high quality win in this division, right? His best fight, the best fighter he's fought was Brandon Royval, who's an elite 125er. We know this, but that win or that fight was a loss, right? And he got beat up a little bit, and it was a very close, very competitive matchup. But Brandon Royval got the best of him. If you take that fight out of the occasion, his best win is what, like Alex Perez, and it was like kind of a weird, like he popped his knee while on the back. It wasn't like a crazy finish or anything. So I don't. Taira, the jury's still out on this guy, whether or not he can hang with the top of the division, because he hung with Royval, but it's like you got to get a win over the top of the division to earn your right there, and we haven't seen that yet. Meanwhile, Moreno's fought the who's. He's a former champion, right? And he dropped a couple fights and it wasn't looking great. He dropped the title fight against Pantoja. He dropped a fight against Royval. But Royval beat both these guys. Like, start putting some respect on Brandon Royval, please. But he was coming off of two losses, and then he comes back with two very strong decision wins. And it wasn't like close decisions. It was he thoroughly beat these guys up. He beat up Amir Albazi in Edmonton, and then he beat up Steve Urseg in Mexico. And obviously Albazi and Urseg we don't really consider like title caliber. I mean, we've seen Urseg fight for a title, to be fair, but you know what I mean. And he won those fights very handily, and his striking looked so on in those fights, particularly his jab. Brandon Moreno's always had a great jab, but it feels like he's taken it to another level. The striking's just been on another level in these past two bouts. I like Brandon Moreno in this fight against Tatsuro Taira. I just think there's a big striking discrepancy between the two. I think Moreno's a good grappler. Now, he's not as good as Taira, and I think it's very clear his path to victory is going to be on the feet. But I think the gap between their grappling is closer than the gap between the striking. I think Moreno's just miles better of a striker than Tatsuro Taira is. Now, granted, Taira's going to have the reach advantage on him, which usually neutralizes a striking matchup a little bit more. I don't know. I could see Taira getting it done. I like, this is a pick'em, so this is like a close fight, but I just think we've seen Moreno fight better guys. He has better wins, better striking. I lean Brandon Moreno in this one. I think he's the more complete fighter with the better strength of schedule in the past. So give me Brandon Moreno in this one, but really fun fight. And if someone gets a finish in this fight especially, I think there's a very good chance that you can argue they're next for the title. Now, obviously, Manel Kape, Brandon Royval next week will play something into that. And I just got to say, I love when the UFC does this, when they schedule a bunch of matchups in a division in like the same time period. We just saw this happen at welterweight. There was 3 huge welterweight fights at UFC 322, and then the next week we had Gary versus Muhammad at UFC Qatar, and all of a sudden we had a lot of clarity as to, okay, we now have a better idea what the welterweight division is looking like. Flyweight there hadn't been much going on there for a bit, and now all of a sudden we get the title fight here, we get Moreno Taira, and then we get next week Brandon Royval versus Manel Kape. Really fun, really excited for it. Also, Charles Johnson versus Alex Perez just got booked for that first Paramount card in January. That's a banger flyweight fight as well. So, flyweight division starting to get some traction here. Very excited for it. Next up, this is maybe the funniest fight on the card. This is maybe the funniest fight in terms of matchmaking that, we've seen in a while. Number 10 ranked, Triple C, Henry Cejudo is fighting Peyton Talbott. What is this fight? I'm not sure. But Cejudo's a plus 230 underdog. That is wild to me. That is we'll get into that in a bit. Versus Peyton Talbott, who's a minus 285 favorite. This is probably, from what it sounds like, this is it for Triple C. This is the final fight. It's a retirement fight. It's completely like crazy and random that they're giving him freaking Peyton Talbott in his retirement fight. I thought while Jose Aldo was in the game, I really thought that they missed an opportunity to do Aldo versus Cejudo. At this point in their careers, they're not quite title caliber anymore, but I thought they really had an opportunity to do that. Instead, they gave Jose Aldo freaking Eamon Zahabi and Mario Batista, and now they're giving Henry Cejudo Peyton Talbott. I thought they had a really good chance to do a cool veteran matchup that the fans would have loved. They missed out on it. We're here. This is a fun fight. It's a really odd fight. This matchup kind of came out of nowhere. It's wild that Talbott's he's fighting number 10. So let's say Talbott gets a win here. He's in the top 10 of the bantamweight division. After this January, he got fraud checked, right? And as we've seen with Raoni Barcelos, he's only gone on to win since then. It is kind of disrespectful to Raoni Barcelos that he completely dominated Peyton Talbott in January. He's won a couple fights since that fight, and now Peyton Talbott wins one fight coming off of that loss to Barcelos, and now he gets a shot at the rankings against one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, a former double champ, a former gold medalist. Crazy. But, sometimes that's just how the UFC operates. It's really unfortunate for Raoni. With that being said, this matchup scares me for Triple C because Peyton Talbott is such a good counter striker, and we've seen this before when wrestlers try to get in on him. He lands these like vicious knees. It happened against Cameron Simon. Peyton Talbott is like he has like some of the counter striking skills against good grapplers, but the best grappler he's fought is Raoni Barcelos, and Barcelos ragdolled him. Now, when he came back against Felipe Lima in June, Peyton Talbott, his ground defense looked a whole lot better. But I don't want people to get this mistake, right? Fighters improve, right? So that is not my point at all, right? Fighters, no doubt about it, improve. But it's not like I don't think Felipe Lima is the level grappler that Raoni Barcelos is. And I know for a fact Raoni Barcelos isn't the level grappler that Henry Cejudo is. So unless Peyton Talbott has made just immense improvements to his ground game, to his ground defense, staying on the feet, to his takedown defense, I don't see how Henry Cejudo loses this fight, right? The only path of victory I really see for Talbott to win this fight, in my opinion, is if he lands that shot, right? Because he does have the power, and he's got the wiry build that always comes with knockouts. I could see Peyton Talbott winning this fight by knockout. But I think the fact that he's a minus 285 favorite after less than a year ago, we saw what Raoni Barcelos did to him. Now you're asking a gold medalist, a wrestling gold medalist, who's a former double champ, who's granted on a 3-fight skid, but the fights are against maybe the 2 greatest bantamweights of all time, and Aljamain Sterling and Merab, and then the other losses against Song Yadong in February, in which Song Yadong beat him by eye poking him, right? It was like wildly controversial that Henry Cejudo got eye poked, continued the round, and then the next round, because they had actually continued the fight, they called it a TKO or went to the judge, whatever it was. It was BS, to be honest. And I think that those 3 losses for Cejudo, 1 has an asterisk next to it, 2 are legit some of the best bantamweights of all time. Dude, call me crazy, plus 230 Henry Cejudo, I'm smashing. Smash. I think that Henry Cejudo should not be the underdog in this one. This is his retirement fight, and we see it sometimes with guys who, when it's rumored it's their final fight, maybe they don't leave it all out there because they know the end is near. But I just don't think Henry Cejudo is that type of person. I don't think he's that type of athlete. I like Henry plus 230 in this one. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Talbot gets a win and shows that he is an elite 135er and he's not just a prospect anymore, but I'm not quite there. And frankly, if Talbot loses, the matchmaking kind of screws him over, because it's like, now is he going to get a shot at the rankings for a while? I don't know. I think this might be too much too soon for Talbot. I think he probably, if you were going to give him a rankings guy, give him someone like 14 or 15 in the division. Don't give him number 10. Don't give him the former champion. I like Henry Cejudo in this one. That's my take on it. Next fight. Final fight. Main card opener. Let's get into it. Jan Blachowicz, number 5 ranked in the light heavyweight division. He's 42 years old now. He's a minus 120 favorite against number 11 ranked Bogdan Guskov, who's a plus 100 underdog. This is light heavyweights, so we're gonna see him trade. We're gonna see him throw. Jan Blachowicz, I don't know what to think. I really don't, man. He a couple years ago in Utah had a very competitive fight against Alex Pereira. That was Alex Pereira's first fight up at 205 from 185. And then he went inactive. And I know he had some injuries and stuff. He went very inactive. He came back in March against Carlos Ulberg. And in that fight, both those guys did a whole lot of nothing, right? It was kind of just point fight. It was kind of just calf kicks. It was one of the most boring fights of the year. And Carlos Ulberg fights do have they do that sometimes when Carlos Ulberg fights. But neither guy did anything impactful. So it was kind of hard to gauge. Was that ring rush from Jan? Was that him being cautious? Because, Carlos Ulberg is a killer. Even though he gets into those snore fests sometimes, he is a killer. It was hard to kind of determine what that fight was. But this is the way I look at it. Jan Blachowicz is 42 years old. And anytime a guy takes a big layoff like Jan Blachowicz did, and is as old as Jan Blachowicz is, it makes me a little eerie and a little cautious. And last fight, the chin didn't really get tested because Carlos Ulberg was kind of just throwing calf kicks, and Jan Blachowicz was kind of doing the same thing. And many people thought Jan maybe won that fight, but both guys did nothing, so I don't care who when it's a close fight like that, it can go either way. You can't really complain about it. So we just don't know. Is Jan Blachowicz back? Is he okay? To me, there's some red flags in this one. I just think that Jan Blachowicz is, one, he's old. He's 42 years old. right? He clearly isn't the fighter that he once was that won the belt. And I don't know, man. I just think that as fun as Jan Blachowicz can be, he's 42 and he was inactive for so many years. And his one fight back, the chin never really got tested. The athleticism really didn't get tested. It's kind of a snore fest. The way I look at it is you've got Bogdan Guskov coming in, who's a guy who will throw more caution to the wind than Olberg did. He throws with much meaner intentions than Olberg does. He has unbelievable KO power. He's on a 4-fight finish streak, so he's got a ton of momentum on his side, and he's the underdog in this fight. Dude, I think we could make some serious money off this card, because the fact that Cejudo isn't as big of an underdog, and the fact that Guskov is an underdog against a 42-year-old who was on a hiatus for a while, I like Guskov in this one, man. And that sucks because Jan Blachowicz is a badass, and he was so cool, and he was a former champ. But, I just think this could be the beginning of the end for Jan Blachowicz. He's on the older side, and the chin hasn't been checked since he came back from that hiatus. And if the chin hasn't been checked in nearly 3 years, 2.5 years, I just don't know. I don't trust it. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to put my money on Blachowicz. I don't want to say Blachowicz is going to win. If he comes back and looks like prime Blachowicz and actually gets into a real fight, he eats a couple shots and he continues to march forward, okay, you sold me. But I haven't seen that yet, and I don't like betting that will be the version of Jan Blachowicz that we see. So, with that being said, give me Bogdan Guskov as a plus 100 underdog here. He has serious power in his hands. Like, he is a really good fighter. And he's got a ton of momentum right now, just an unbelievable amount of momentum. His teammate, Walter Walker, also has a ton of momentum. I just think things are looking up for Bogdan Guskov, whereas Jan Blachowicz, it's kind of the beginning and the end. And sometimes you see these matchups where you've got a younger guy with a lot of momentum fighting an older guy towards the end of the career, and it's kind of that like passing of the torch, kind of like this is the beginning and the end for the older guy. I could see that happening in this one. So give me Jan Blachowicz. Sucks to say. I hope he pulls out a win because I really do like him a lot, but I think Guskov is a dog. Is a pretty safe bet. Not safe, but a safer bet. So that's my thought on this one. And now we're on to the prelims. And I'm not going to go as in-depth into these prelims, but what I will say is these are the best prelims of the year, by far. I mean, they go deep. Into the early prelims, they go deep. And I think I'm going to talk about 6 fights, 6 prelims right now. And I think all 6 of these are worth watching for different reasons, whether it's action, whether it's storylines, whatever it is. So we're going to go down the line. Feature prelim, number 13 ranked, Grant Dawson taking on Manuel Torres. Banger fight, right? Grant Dawson, one of the most disrespected fighters in the organization because he has one loss, and it was like this fluky jab by Bobby Green that KO'd him. He's looked great ever since then. He kind of has a boring style. He only really grapples. He doesn't usually get a ton of finishes. Manuel Torres is a tough matchup for him because Manuel Torres is huge. He's a long, tall striker, and we've seen, and he's kind of got like that build that's like kind of the anti-grappler build. Grant Dawson is a little chinny. We saw it with the Bobby Green jab. Could Manuel Torres put Grant Dawson out like he put Drew Dober out? There's a real chance. But that's what makes this one so intriguing is it's 2 guys. I mean, Manuel Torres is fighting for a spot in the rankings. Like, this is a really, really, really good fight. Let's say it lightweight. Before that, Terrence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. Fight of the year potential for this one. Now, unfortunately for this one, I just don't see a way that this escapes. Like, if this goes to the scorecards, then we're living in the freaking upside down in Stranger Things because there's no shot. There's absolutely no shot that this goes. Chris Duncan, every time this dude fights, it's war. He went to war with Mateusz Raubeski. His contender series fight against Charlie Campbell looked like he was going to get KO'd, and he comes back. Chris Duncan is a DAWG. He's a dog. And every fight that he's in is a banger. And on the other side, you got Terrence McKinney, who has literally in his MMA career never seen a judge's scorecard. He has never seen a judge's scorecard. Crazy thing about that, too, is he's never gotten a bonus in the UFC. This dude has won every single one of his fights by KO or submission. He's lost every single one of his fights by KO or submission. And yet, he's never won a bonus in the UFC. That's wild. Him versus Chris Duncan is an absolute banger fight. One person is getting put out unconscious in this one. I'm so excited. This is like high action. And you know what the crazy thing is about this fight? is whoever wins this one has a real argument at like, okay, next up I want a guy in the rankings. Because like, especially recently, both guys have had some really quality wins. So I'm unbelievably excited for this one. This is probably my favorite fight of the card. This is fight of the night potential. Problem is it probably won't get fight of the night because it's probably going to be done within a couple minutes because these guys just throw caution to the wind so much. So unbelievable card, unbelievable fight. So excited for this one. Before that, maybe not the banger that the first two I just talked about are, but Macy Barber versus Karine Silva, number 5 versus number 9 in the flyweight division. Macy Barber, it's been a long road. Her last fight was UFC 299. UFC 299 in Miami. That was the Sean O'Malley Chito Vera card way back. I can't believe that's way back. That feels like it was yesterday that I was watching that card. But that was her last fight, because she's had some scheduled fights. She's had some real health complications. And I don't know the full extent of it, but remember, she was scheduled in a main event against Erin Blanchfield earlier this year. And what happened? She had a seizure. Like, as they're walking out to the octagon, she had a seizure. She's had some real health complications. And this is one of those fights where I'm recording this on Tuesday. There's a chance something goes haywire with her health in the meantime. But if Macy Barber can fight, right, before all the health complications, she really did have a lot of momentum on her in this division. And at this point, she's been out for so long. She's had so many health complications. How is she going to look coming back against Karine Silva, who is a really good fighter in her own right? I don't know. Is this going to be like a crazy banger fight? I don't think so. But Macy Barber fights are fun. She does throw bombs. She does like getting bloody in the octagon. And it'll be interesting to see how did she look coming back from seizures, all these health complications. Like, she has been in the hospital. She's talked about how she thought she might die. Like, it's something to watch in this fight. Before that, another lightweight fight. So 3 out of the 4 prelims that I'm talking about here are lightweight fights, and they're all bangers. This one, Nazim Sadikov versus Fares Ziam. This is a really fun fight. Ziam had that vicious, just absolutely vicious knee of Matt Frivola at the Paris card last year. It was one of the knockouts of the year. It was unbelievable. Fares Ziam is a legit fighter. He's long. He's got really good range, really good weapons. He beat Mike Davis in Saudi Arabia. That was a quality win in which he was getting like knee barred. I thought his knee was going to freaking snap off his leg, and it didn't. It was gruesome, but he survived it, won the fight. He's fighting Nazim Sadikov, who in his own right had one of the best fights of the year. He fought on that Baku card. I don't know if you remember that fight. He fought Niklos Mota, and Mota put together like a 70-punch combination on him on the fence, just wham, 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 wham. And the dude just shelled up. He got knocked down, and he ended up withstanding it, came back, won the fight, one of the fights of the year. He's fighting, these are two guys similar to the McKinney-Duncan fight, similar to Dawson Torres. Like, these are guys who are right on the cusp of the rankings, and a win here gives them a serious argument. Hey, I deserve a shot at the rankings. So really fun fight is this one. Before that, opening up the early prelims, Marvin Vettori. So you've got Marvin Vettori, a former title challenger, a ranked middleweight on the early prelims. And it's not even unfair placement. Like, this is fair placement. It's just how stacked these prelims are. He's fighting Bruno Ferreira. This is going to be interesting because Marvin Vettori has not looked good as of recently. He hasn't. He's kind of slow. Obviously, his best weapon is his chin. Like, he's not great. Bruno Ferreira throws bombs, gets finishes. Obviously, Marvin Vettori doesn't usually get finished. So, very interesting fight in its own light. Marvin Vettori is kind of becoming a gatekeeper here. He's trying to protect his ranking because he loses this. He's probably fallen out of the middleweight rankings, which is crazy to think about considering he fought for the title not so long ago against Israel Adesanya. And then before that, like, this is how absurd this card is. Like, in the middle of the early prelims, you got Edson Barbosa versus Jalen Turner. Edson Barbosa moving up to lightweight, which is smart for him. I don't think he ever should have been at featherweight. I think lightweight's the division for him. He's fighting Jalen Turner, who, as you know, retired, came back. Jalen Turner has shown flashes of being, like, an absolutely awesome fighter in the past. He just these fights always just don't go his way. The Moicano fight he should have won, and then that weird walk away, came back, and then, you know, the Dan Hooker fight was a close one. He came back. Like, he lets these fights slip away, but he's always showed this, like, potential of being, like, an elite 155er, and he's also huge for the division. He's coming back out of retirement against Edson Barbosa, who probably should be in retirement, but who's coming back down to coming back up to lightweight. Really fun fight. And then there's a couple other fights down the line as well. This is an unbelievable card. This is a deep card. I'm very excited for it. Dude. I mean, I'm over the moon for this card, and yeah. So now I'm gonna switch to the new segment of the show in which I'm giving you guys my parlay for the UFC 323 card. If anyone cares to follow, cares to trail it. So Let's do it. Okay, so welcome to the new segment, Joseph's Parlay for the week. If you do want to trail, please do. If not, please bet responsibly. I'm not telling you to throw your savings away. All I'm saying is if you do put money on this parlay, you will win big. So my parlay for the week, it's a 3-legger. I've got Bogdan Guskov at plus 110, Henry Cejudo plus 220, and Bruno Ferreira at plus 100. Money lines on all three. Not getting fancy with the rounds, the type of wins or anything. 3 money lines. These are 3 underdogs that I truly believe are going to win their respective fights. As I talked about, Bogdan Guskov is fighting Jan Blachowicz, who's old, the chin hasn't really been tested since the hiatus, and Bogdan Guskov has enough power in his hands to be able to do that. He's riding a 4-fight finish streak. I think he's got momentum on his side right now. He's fighting for a spot within the top 5. This win puts him 1 win away from a title shot. I think that Bogdan Guskov is the move there. Henry Cejudo versus Peyton Talbott. It's kind of MMA mathy, which makes me a little concerned about it. But I just think that Henry Cejudo, man, is miles better than any grappler that Peyton Talbott has been tested by before. And the best grappler that Peyton Talbott's been tested by was Moreno Barcelos, who kind of had his way against Peyton Talbott. So even though Peyton Talbott is a great athlete, he's got great counter-striking, great knees, I just trust in Triple C to get it done, win his retirement fight. And then Bruno Ferreira versus Marvin Vettori. I love Marvin Vettori, repping for us Italians, but it's one of those fights, man, where Bruno Ferreira is another guy who has a ton of momentum on his side right now, and Marvin Vettori the tools just aren't there anymore. He just looks slow on the feet. His chin is always in the air, even though he has a great chin. The chin's in the air. I think Bruno Ferreira has a more well-rounded skill set. He's got more power in his hands. He's faster. I just think that these are 3 fights. The reason I'm putting these 3, and it's 3 underdogs, is because these are 3 underdogs who I solely believe will win their fights. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If you disagree with me, you disagree with me. Put your own parlay down. But my parlay for the week, Bogdan Guskov plus 110, Henry Cejudo plus 220, Bruno Ferreira plus 100 at a combined odds of plus 1,244. If you want to make some money, trail me. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this new segment. All odds are on Fliff because I live in California and cannot use DraftKings or any of the other sports books. So we're rocking with Fliff for now. With that being said, that's the end of this episode. I appreciate everyone being here. I hope you enjoyed the new segment. I hope you have a great week of fights. Like I said, if anything changes in the meantime, I'm recording this on Tuesday, so I apologize in advance. I will be dropping an NFL. I'm back. I haven't done much NFL content in a while. I promise it's not going anywhere. I'll do an NFL Week 14. We're at Week 14. That's crazy. Week 14 preview, and then I'll do my daily fantasy line for the week for the NFL. And then, of course, Saturday night or Sunday, I will be recording my reaction to UFC 323, the final ESPN card, the final pay-per-view of the year. And then next week we got Brandon Roy Valman El Cop, and then we are off for 6 weeks of no UFC. So if you like the NFL content more than you do the UFC content, there's going to be plenty of NFL content because I won't have really any UFC content to talk about over those 6 weeks. So I appreciate everyone being here. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Let's make some money. Let's watch some fights. I'll see you guys later.